How's it going, guys? I'm the son of Jazzy. Welcome back to some more Dead by Daylight. Now today we are going to be doing the ultimate ONI guide. Now you guys have requested this so much. For those of you who don't know, I'm an ONI main. I have been for about 6 months. He's probably my most consistent killer. He's the killer I enjoy the most, I have the most fun with, and I've just been playing the absolute hell out of him for the past 6 months. And you guys have been asking every now and again kind of like tips and tricks, what kind of works best here, what doesn't work there. So I thought it was best if I just put all of my ONI information into one video so that you guys know exactly what I do when I play as the ONI. We're going to be going through everything, including his perks and his add-ons, what works best, what doesn't, what you should avoid. We're going to be going through his gameplay, so kind of what you do at the start of the match, at end game, and just like kind of what you should be doing throughout the match consistently to try and get that 4K. We're going to be going through his tips and tricks, which is just like little extra bits, anecdotes that I know that kind of increase the power of the ONI, if you get what I mean. That'll really hopefully help your ONI gameplay if some of you guys didn't know about them. And then at the very end we're going to be going through his weaknesses as well. So if you are a survivor, these are the 4 things that you'll need to be doing to more or less consistently be able to beat the ONI, or at least make it really difficult for him. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I really hope you enjoy. I really hope that you can take something away from this. But without further ado, let's get into the first category, which is going to be his perks and add-ons. So to begin with, we're going to talk about perks. Now, perks for ONI, the best perks for him are the ones that slow the game down and the ones that give him as much information as possible. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of builds. These are my 2 favourite builds on him. I'm going to start with the one that I've had best results with, which would be Barbecue and Chili, Ruin, Undying, and Infectious Fright. Now, Barbecue and Infectious Fright are fantastic for information, and I'll admit I use Barbecue as well for the blood points. But Ruin and Dying, obviously it's the current meta right now, but it is really good because it just slows the game down. So if you pull survivors off a generator whilst chasing them, you don't have to worry about that gen. Now, another really good build as well is Barbecue, Pop, Monitor and Abuse, and Discordance. Now, Pop again, gen regression, really good after the end of a chase. Discordance is fantastic for information with ONI because when paired with the Monitor and Abuse, when a generator lights up that 2 people are working on it, you pop your power and they have a smaller reaction time to deal with your incoming attack. So that's a really good. But to be fair, a lot of these perks you can swap out and play to your own advantage what works for you best. Of course, as I said, this is just what works for me the best, what I've had the best results with. So some really good perks that work for ONI include Sloppy Butcher and Force Penance. Sloppy Butcher obviously makes it longer for them to be able to heal, which is good because it means they're distracted more, letting gens regress and also leaving more blood. Force Penance is good because even though survivors shouldn't be taking hits against an ONI, that's kind of very counterproductive. Force Penance can punish that even further. Other good perks include Tinkerer, Endurance, Nurses, and Corrupt Intervention as well, just for slowing the game down. Perks that I would avoid, I'm not really going to talk about the perks that everybody knows that are universally bad, like Monstrous Shrine and whatnot, but even though for other killers there may be a necessity, include Brutal Strength. However good this perk is, you want to be destroying pallets at most when you're in your Blood Fury, when it's quick to do so. I would also avoid Play With Your Food because that affects the speed of his Blood Fury, which you kind of don't want to mess with for reasons I'll get on to later. And also save the best for last, because even though this perk is good, the main time you're going to be down in survivors is when you're in your Blood Fury. You're not really going to be doing much when you are doing basic attacks, and 9 times out of 10 you'll probably end up hitting your obsession anyway and losing the stack. So it's just not worth the payoff. So now to his add-ons. So I'm going to split his add-ons into 4 categories. The first is going to be great add-ons that really help with his gameplay. The second category is going to be okay perks, hit and miss, take them if you want, it's not going to really do that much. And then add-ons that I really tend to avoid. And then just the rest after that is the one just alright, no good, no bad, run them if you'd like. So the first set of good add-ons that I would suggest, the absolute best he has, are the ones that affect his blood drop rates, including his Wooden Oni Mask and his Splintered Hull. These are fantastic because they just make survivors drop more blood more frequently, and when they vault, which means that they'll leave more blood around, which means you can get your power more often, which is brilliant because you want as much power as you can with ONI. So the next category are the ones that increase his duration of Blood Fury. This includes Chip Sashai, Yamakao Shashimono, and the Lion Fang. These are really good. just for keeping your duration lasting longer, which means the survivors have to either hide or hopefully make mistakes which you then can benefit from. But the other ones that I would say are okay to run as well are the ones that increase his passive charge rate of his power. This includes the Polished Mayday and the Shattered Wakizashi. Now these are okay, they're not exactly the best, but I'd say they're above average. This just means that over time your bar will naturally fill itself. Sometimes you won't necessarily need to find blood orbs for the last bit of donation, or sometimes they will load the last quarter of your bar if you're struggling to find blood or survivors. So this next category are okay add-ons. I wouldn't say they're the best. I wouldn't sometimes even put them on, but if you want to, feel free to. It shouldn't affect your gameplay too much, except give you a tiny benefit here or there. This includes both of his iridescent add-ons. They're okay, they're good, but I'd rather put on, as I said, some of the previous ones mentioned beforehand. The tear-soaked Tengui as well is okay, not the best, and as well as any that increase his orb's absorption movement speed. You can if you want to, but to be fair, it isn't going to make that too big of a deal gameplay-wise. Now, the ones that I would avoid, there's mainly two categories, and I'm going to tell you why I would avoid these, even though they do sound good. And I will reiterate, they may be good. If you enjoy using them, feel free. If your gameplay is better with these on, fair play to you. So the two category speeds that I tend to avoid, for reasons I will get into in the gameplay part of this, is movement speed add-ons, which includes his Kanai Anzen Talisman and Akito's Crutch. With these, yeah, even though increased movement speed sounds good, and it is good for gen pressure and stuff like that, when you're trying to get survivors down with some of the strats that I'm about to show you in a couple of minutes, these can actually be counterproductive because it messes with the lines that you need to take in order to potentially get survivors down. As I said, I'll get more onto this soon. And the other ones that I would also avoid are the ones that increase his activation time into the Demon Dash. So what I mean is when you press M2 to start running, how long it takes for you to actually start and being able to down somebody from you clicking that button. For the kind of the same reason, it messes with timing, and it can also mess with your lines, considering sometimes you need to bait a survivor one direction whilst you're actually intending on going another. I'll get to that in the future. The rest are also alright. I wouldn't run them, but as I said, nothing wrong with running them if you want to. Now we're going to move on to the second part, which is what you do at the start of the game. So now we are in the game with ONI, we've just started the match, and this is basically what I do to make sure this game goes as best as I can. Now don't get me wrong, sometimes this doesn't go 100% for different reasons that I'll get into. Sometimes you get a really good survivor friend team, sometimes you just get god survivors that can make this really difficult, but the first thing that you want to do every time at the start of a match is to walk to the furthest gen away from you. Walk to where the survivors are going to be, because the thing about ONI is you want to hit a survivor as soon as possible, just so you can get blood going, you can get your power charging, and ONI's gameplay revolves around his power, so you need to be able to have access to that power as much as possible, because when ONI has his power, his map pressure is immense, and he's a one-hit down, which is phenomenal. So what you want to do, as I said, walk to the furthest gen away and try and hit as many survivors as you can. So if you walk to the far side of the map and you see 3 survivors, hit one and then try and chase another at the very minimum. Because that one person who's injured will be leaving blood, doing their own thing. They'll either be healing, working on a gen, finding something, leaving blood, so that you can then hit somebody else, get them to leave blood, and then down them. So hopefully you always want a kind of consistent blood drop rate. You can use the perks and the add-ons that I mentioned earlier to help with this, but this is what you should be doing at the start of the game without question every time. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work out 100% and survivors are really good at evading, or you can only find the one, which is fair enough, but 9 times out of 10 you want to try and get as many 2 survivors as you can. But don't leave a survivor unless you know you can go follow another one. So if you're chasing one, and there's nobody else around, keep to the chase and down them. That's where perks like Monitor and Abuse can come in handy. So if I down a survivor and I know there's a survivor hiding in the bushes 5 meters from me, I can go give them a hit, get them leaving blood, pick up the survivor I downed and crack them with the game, knowing that there's blood being left and that now I'm forcing survivors to do things that benefit me. So one of the things about ONI that I kind of only recently picked up, maybe in the last couple of months, is that when you use your power, survivors stop leaving blood. I don't know why, but I just did not know that. So what you want to do is try and use your power if and when. If all 4 survivors are injured, you don't need to use your power because they're already a 1-hit down. You can spend that time letting them leave blood. So if they're all injured, keep your power. Let them leave blood, let them panic, let them heal, let them do gens. The only differences would be your speed, and I don't think your speed would be worth it. But if they say all start healing, they go from 4 injured to 3 healthy, 1 injured, use your power and go for the people who are full health. As your power, try not to use it on people who are injured because you're just wasting it. Always go for healthy survivors so you can instantly down them when they get saved again, they're leaving blood again, and it's just recycling your power. You've got a consistent level of blood all the time, and the thing about ONI is the longer the game goes on, the stronger he gets. You may lose 2 gens getting your first down and your first power, but as soon as you've got that, when you start pressuring everything else, power will just come to you naturally and it'll just become so much easier, and then the amount of gens that are getting pushed in your face go down. Along with perks like Pop and Undying Ruin, just delay the game so that you can become stronger for longer. That's kind of the way that I know to play him. But yeah, that's what I would suggest, at least with a couple of things with his power as well. But another thing as well is you also need to know when to give up a chase, especially when you're using your power. If you're chasing a survivor that is looping you, then what you need to do is try and reassess, because all you're doing is wasting your power and you're not doing anything to further your power, because nobody's leaving blood. Try and go to down somebody. Even if it's somebody injured, you just need to try and achieve something with every turn of your power. That's kind of the way that I think of it, is when I use it, I have to do something with it. I have to either down somebody or break enough pallets to hit more people, or pressure gens. His power is probably one of the best powers in the game, just from all the things that it can do. And one of the things that will take the most time to get used to, but once you know how to do it, it's incredible, is the ONI's flick, his down, is the animation. At first, it is really difficult to predict left or right, kind of how much you need to tilt to be able to get the down. This, there's nothing much I can really say other than this is just needs practice, it needs time, it needs you to be able to get used to it. Similar to playing Nurse and Huntress and all that stuff, there's nothing I can say that will really help you with the flick, but just know the more you do it, the better you'll become at it. So what you need to do is, if you're just starting ONI, have 10 games. Every time you get your power, use it and try and get people down. Get used to the flick, because then when you're good enough with ONI and good enough with the flick, you can then use what I've been talking about to extract the best for your killer. So get used to the flick. It is tough at first, it really is. You will bump into a lot of stuff. The best way to do it is potentially maybe even get a couple of friends on Kill Your Friends and practice on them. Let them run loops and you have to try and hit them in the loops. It's simple, but it's what you need to do to be able to get used to the flickers only. It's just practice, patience, and a lot of hard work. But once you get there, it is incredible and almost easy to use. When you know what you need to do, it's just so good. Really good. So with the end game, I would say if you're looking for the hatch, try and save your power, unless you know the exit gates are very close to each other. Because if I was to close the hatch, use my power, and then the exit gates on the other side of the map, it's more or less guaranteed that the survivor will be able to escape one way or another. But if I keep my power and I close hatch, and the exit gates are far away from each other, I've still got an incredible speed to make sure that they don't do the exit gates. Then they have to hide for a little bit longer, maybe make a mistake. Another good tip is try and maybe save a pool of blood for the end game. If say Meat Tree, for example, loads of people have been vaulting off the pallet and the wall and there's tons of blood there, use your power to find the hatch and make sure your power is ended at the Meat Tree, immediately get your power back and then go between the gates. But to be fair, I wouldn't really say this is consistent because it's different every game. and it's probably the thing that's most difficult to predict with Oni. All I can suggest is try and keep the intimidation up, try and keep the fear of you in your power, and use that to your advantage whilst you're trying to get that last guy. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers the gameplay aspect of it, because there's not much that really needs to be said about him. I've given you basically what to do at the start game, when to use his power, and just hopefully a couple of pointers in how to become as best with him as you can during the game. So now we're going to be going on to some tips and tricks. This is just, I didn't really feel like I could put it into any category. This is just stuff that I feel like is really handy information for Oni. And the first thing that we're going to do is talk about lines that you should take when trying to down a survivor that's looping you. So one of the things that I love doing, and that has a fairly nice consistency to it, is say if a survivor is looping you in one direction, what you need to do is take a step back, activate your power, and bait them. And what I mean by that is when you charge your power, look in one direction to where the survivor's looping, and then run the other. Because 9 times out of 10, the survivor will start to run the other way, and then when you meet them, it'll take them by complete surprise, and they'll have less time to react, and you'll get the down. I know this is a bit tricky to explain, it's a bit wordy, but with what's going on screen, hopefully you can imagine what I mean. And this is why I don't like perks that increase your activation speed or your movement speed, because this window for timing gets drastically reduced, and if I need maybe 2 seconds to bait a survivor going one direction, it'll be impossible for me to do it if that's only 1 second animation, and then my movement speed's twice as quick. I won't be able to get the right lean that I need to be able to get the down. So that's kind of why I avoid perks that mess with his movement speed, because when it comes to this kind of baiting, it can make it 10 times trickier. Really, really tricky. And this is probably what I use most consistently to get downs. So another tip I'd have to give with Oni is don't camp with him. If you've hooked a survivor, leave the survivor, because camping actually works against his power. Because if you camp, the other survivors have free reign to heal, to do gens, to do whatever they need to do, whilst you're sat there defending a hook that's giving you nothing towards your power. Survivors don't leave blood except for 2 droplets when you hook them, so you get nothing in return for it. Whereas if you leave, the survivors have to go and save. Then when they save, blood will start being left again, and you can already be onto another survivor or damaging gens and making sure that you're delaying the game and working towards your power. So camping with Oni is you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. Obviously this is subject to change. If you're at end game and you need to secure a kill and bait survivors out, obviously do so. But I mean, for the most part of the game, if things are going okay, just don't camp. It works against you. Another thing that I would recommend as well is try to keep Oni's power bar as full as you can. So what I mean by that is, say if I down a survivor and my bar is 3/4 full, I will immediately pick that survivor up. 9 times out of 10, unless there's somebody right next to me or some people I can pressure really quickly, I will pick that survivor up and stop my bar from leaving. Because not only do I have the down, I can get the hook, and that means it'll take less blood for me to fill up my bar again, ready for me to use my power. You need to make sure your power bar is as full as often as you can. Now, it doesn't mean use it all the time, but just make sure that if you need to, it is there to use. So I tend to pick up survivors fairly quickly after I've downed them, but there are different situations in where that isn't the case. But you're just going to have to kind of play it by your gut feeling. But as I said, that's kind of what I do 9 times out of 10. Another tip I've got is to do with the absorbing of his blood. Now, what I wouldn't do is, if you're chasing a survivor, don't pick up the 2 blobs every time they drop. Because that'll just slow you down and make the chase go on longer. So don't run, pick up, run, pick up, run, pick up. Just wait until you've downed them, hook them, and then go and pick it all up in one big swoop. Because then every time you go to absorb blood, you slow down, which gives them more distance, which means the chase will go on longer. So you have to be really clever when absorbing blood. Now, if they're vaulting over something continuously, like looping you around a T-wall, for example, you can't, pick up all the blood at once, make sure it's short and sweet, and worth the slowdown. So don't do it for 2 blobs. If you need it, do it for, say, 10 blobs of blood. I know that's a weird way to say it, but just you have to pick and choose when to absorb blood. The best time is either after a hook or at the beginning of the game to get your power, or if you're 2 blood blobs off your full power, yeah, use it then, because then that'll put fear into the rest of the survivors, including the one you're chasing. But if you've only got half of your power, or a quarter of your power, or maybe even a third, get the survivor down first, then go pick up all the blood that left behind. Don't slow yourself down during the chase to get it, because that'll just make things worse for you. So to be honest, that's pretty much it. From what I can tell you anyway, that won't improve your gameplay just from playing the character. Now the way that I've done this is I didn't want it to be just for beginners and advanced, so there's a little bit in everything. So hopefully if you're just picking up ONI, you can get a lot of information to kind of start your process to become a good killer with him. And even if you've been playing ONI for a little while, you might be able to get like a little bit of tips and tricks that I've mentioned, something that you maybe didn't think of, or something that you didn't do consistently, that will hopefully increase your ONI game. So we're going to be getting on to the final part of this, which is going to be ONI's weaknesses. This is what, as a survivor, you need to do to consistently win against the ONI, or at least to make it as difficult for him as possible to get the win. The first tip that I'm going to give you in ways to beat the ONI is to try and heal as much as possible. ONI benefits so much off survivors being injured. So if you deny me the blood, deny me my power, it'll make things a lot trickier for me, because I'm then become an M1 killer, and not the best one to begin with. ONI strives on his power, so if you deny him of that as much as you possible, it'll become very difficult for him. The second point I will give you is, when he's in his blood fury, if you can, hide. ONI in his blood fury is trying to down somebody. That is what the power is best at. That's what it's mainly used for. So if you guys hide, even if it makes you lose a quarter of a gen regression, hide until his power is over, then that's a full pool of blood that I have wasted. I've got nothing from it. So hide in lockers, hide in tall grass, hide in corners of the map, hide where I just won't be looking, because when I'm using my power, I'll be trying to cover as much of the map as possible, trying to find somebody to down. If you deny me that, then my power's been wasted and the blood's been wasted. Another one as well that's really good is if you try and react as early as possible to the ONI. Spine Chill helps with this a lot, but if it isn't a necessity. So if you hear an ONI going into his power, get ready to hide, to kind of take things a little bit slowly, because that's what you need to do. If you react 5 seconds earlier, the way that I work is I get my downs based on reaction time. So if I'm absolutely smashing it towards a gen, and I see survivors, if they run 5 seconds earlier, I have to make a decision. Do I either do I damage the gen, or do I chase the survivor? If you immediately run towards a T-wall or to something that you can loop me around for a bit, you're wasting my time, which is a great thing. So try and react as early as possible, because the later react, the more difficult it'll be for you. And sometimes it'll just mean if you don't react at all, instant down. I get everything I want and all of my power is saved. And one of the last tips that I'll give you for the ONI is the fact that long walls are your best friend, as well as Shack. If I'm in my power and the ONI is chasing you, you couldn't hide, you couldn't evade it, and he's onto you, stick to walls as long as the longest walls that you can. Because say if I'm chasing you one way and you immediately turn the corner and go down and start running the opposite way, I have to stop my power, turn my character, and then start running again, because I can't turn quick enough to successfully do the chase. I'll end up running into a wall or something like that. So if you can stick to the long and straights with a quick turn and keep looping him, you'll keep him there for ages if he doesn't give up the chase. And the last tip that I will give for you, I didn't actually include it, but I've just thought about it, which is actually really good, is, for the love of God, don't take hits against the ONI. Don't do protection hits. Unless you need to, unless he's tunneling a survivor and you need to take that hit to get him off you, don't do it. If he's got somebody's hand, don't take hits from at the hook, because say if 2 injured people come and take a hit for the hook and I damage you both, yeah, the survivors may get off my shoulder, but now that's 3 people leaving blood for me instead of 1 person who isn't on the hook. So taking hits, protection hits as the ONI really, really helps him, and it will really mess your game up a little bit. So yeah, just in summary, react 5 seconds earlier, heal, long walls are your best friends, hide in blood fury, and don't take protection hits. If you do these 5 things, I guarantee you the rate at which you win against Onis will go up, and the Oni will struggle. He will struggle, trust me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything that I've missed. But if there is, I will potentially leave some extra tips and stuff in the comments. If I think about one, I'll just leave it in there for you guys to look at. But other than that, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this. I really hope it helps. I hope it gives you guys a little bit of win to maybe go try him or to play with him a bit better. He's a fantastic killer and really deserves a bigger fan base. Not enough people play as him. He's so strong. I wouldn't say that he's S tier, but I would say that he's probably top A tier. He's as close as you can get because the weaknesses that he have when exploited are rough as fuck. So guys, that's pretty much it, and that's pretty much everything that I do as Oni to make sure that I get as many kills as possible. All the tricks, all the tips, all my gameplay strats, and all the perks that I like to use and the ones that I avoid, as well as the Oni's weaknesses. Guys, I really genuinely hope that you can take something away from this and say that this helped you in some way, because that's what this is for. If you did enjoy it, if it did help you, please leave a like on the video, guys. I spent so long editing this one, but without sounding like I'm begging for it, I would really appreciate it. But other than that, guys, I'll see you in the next video, so take care, bye bye for now.